Alright, so now let's get on to recognizing functions and function families, day 1. So we're going to start off with 5 definitions. Now I want to remind you that when we are writing definitions, I need you to pay attention to what the words mean, not just writing it down without thinking, okay? Because it's important that you process the words and you understand it. So let's start off with relation. I'm going to write the official definition here. A relation is the mapping between a set of input values called the domain and a set of output values called the range. Okay, so that's a lot of words to really just say that the relation is pretty much just a relationship between two things. Okay, now let's get on to function. Function is a relation, so it's a type of relation that assigns to each element of the domain exactly one element of the range. Okay, and I'm going to give you a little example of this function, okay? So a function is a relation that assigns to each element of the domain exactly one element of the range. Not 2, not 3, but exactly 1. So if you think of Miss Jade in the domain, oops, oh well, it's okay. If I'm in the domain, let's imagine that I have one boyfriend. Exactly one boyfriend. This would be a function. My relationship would function because there's exactly one element in the range, exactly one boyfriend. Now, let's think about if Miss Jade was going to go on 3 dates in one day, okay? So I have boyfriend 1 for breakfast, boyfriend 2 for lunch, boyfriend 2 for lunch, and boyfriend 3 for dinner, okay? Because I'm hungry. So then Miss Jade would go, to the boyfriend 1, and also go to boyfriend 2, and also go to boyfriend 3. Now, would this relationship function? No, because there's not exactly one element in the range. There's 1, 2, 3 elements in the range. So this is not a function, okay? A function is when there's only exactly one element in the range for every thing in the domain. All right, so that's your little function example. I hope you don't think I do that. I don't. Let's erase that out of your memory. All right. Let's also move on to the vertical line test. So in math, you're not going to have a bunch of boyfriends and one Miss Jade. You're going to have x values and y values and a graph. So you're going to be able to use the vertical line test to see if a graph is a function. So let's write the definition. So the vertical line test is a visual method used to determine whether a relation represented as a graph is a function. Okay? And we're going to be using the vertical line test on those graphs for 1, 2, 3, 4 later. But let's write the other definitions first. Continuous graph. Continuous graph is a graph of points that are connected by a line or smooth curve of the graph with no breaks. Okay, and the opposite of a continuous graph is a discrete graph, in which it is a graph of isolated points. Okay, and just to give you a picture representation of a continuous graph, here's your x and y axis. Here's a continuous graph is where you don't pick up your pencil. Here's continuous. Do not pick up pencil. Okay? And then for a discrete graph, it's literally a bunch of dots. This is a discrete graph. It's a graph of isolated points, isolated dots, just floating dots, okay? All right, so now that we got all of our definitions down, let's follow the instructions over here. Determine which relations represent functions. If the relation is not a function, state why not. So in order to determine if these graphs are functions, we're going to be using the vertical line test. Let me scroll up a little bit. All right, so we're going to be using the vertical line test, and the way you do that is, let me draw a line. All right, you can see that blue line. Now I want you to imagine if I took this blue line and I just dragged it left and right. Let's see if this blue line will ever touch more than one spot on the graph. If I put it right there, I am touching one spot on the graph. I am touching the corner point. But what if I move it a little bit more to the right? How many spots am I touching on the graph now? There's this spot right here and this spot right here. That means this input has two outputs, this top output and the bottom output. This is like Miss J with two boyfriends, okay? So this is not a function. And that's because, I'm just gonna shorten it, so write B/C for because some inputs have two outputs. Oops, I don't know why I keep scrolling, my bad. Okay, so this is not a function because some inputs have two outputs, and you can see the two outputs because when I draw a vertical line to represent that one input, you can see it touches at 2 points, which means it has two outputs. All right, so let's take a look at number 2. You guys can pause this. We're gonna pause this video, see if you can tell if it's a function or not. All right, unpausing it now. We're gonna do the vertical line test again. Here's my vertical line, and now I'm just gonna drag it across and see if it will ever touch more than 1 point. Okay, it's only touching 1, it's only touching 1, only touching 1, only touching 1. All right, so no matter where I put my vertical line, I only touch 1 point, which means that this is a function. So see, there's only one point that you can touch it at. All right, so now you guys gotta try number 3 and 4, and make sure if you have any questions you have to ask, okay? I will not be able to read